Not only were we trying to make the first comic book animated movie, and that's a style all of its own, but we also try to do that differently for every character from a different universe. And so there's several different characters from uniquely different universes, and we wanted each of them to have a completely different language.
Myles is the center of this universe that we created, so we sort of used as to establish the look of the film. All of the techniques we developed really were to make Myles look great, and what Myles looks like somewhere between a hybrid of like 90s and 80s comics. Like not quite the modern printing techniques that they have today, because we wanted to take advantage of screen tones. So we wanted to limit the palette, we wanted to limit the amount of textures, we wanted the textures to be really graphic.
SpiderGwen was similar aesthetic universe as Peter and Myles. They're both from different universes, but their rules of physics are in the same wheelhouse. So how we moved her wasn't wildly different from how we moved Peter and Myles. It was more trying to feel as earnest and sincere and lean into nothing nostalgic, make it as recognizable as possible.
Then with Noir, he is a gritty dude from the 1930s serialized comics, black and white. I like this idea that the comics back then, they weren't printed with the same fidelity that even in the 80s and 90s, that the comics that we sort of based Myles's world on. You could print black and you could print white, and the fidelity you could get, like your dots had to be really big, and we just made him a lot more simple in terms of his rendering technique.
Penny Parker is from the distant future, and in her world we decided that that's going to be a very anime-influenced world. And anime isn't just one thing, just like a comic book isn't just one thing. That's a whole genre of different styles. So we would pick and choose from some of our favorite animes and cater that to the performance. So sometimes for more action things, we'd have a wildly different style from how we would do when she's delivering a sentimental line. But we made the choice that she's a wildly more limited character, and just like an anime, when she's just delivering dialogue, it's as minimal and simple as possible. She's one of my favorite characters, actually, because she was such an experiment, and we kind of just jumped in full steam ahead with her and sort of figured her out in scene and in characters, and I think it was a slam dunk.
And then Hamm, who's my favorite alt-universe character. I thought he was just such a great opportunity because he's such a silly character. And I think the more I leaned into how silly he is on a story level, like the less we tried to explain him, the more we made him a cartoon. And his reality is sort of almost unlimited because he is a cartoon. He can float through the air if he wants to. He can defy any law of nature he wants to, as long as it's funny. You know, he just follows the rule of any great cartoon. As long as it's funny, he can do it. And so for that reason, I wanted him to be rendered as much as I could like a 2D cartoon. And I think, again, they found ways to take the techniques we were developing and just keep developing them a little further to get those looks.
The biggest challenge there was we would change the characters' proportions and designs. Like a splash page would be in a comic book, they're all part of the same illustration. Depending on the scene, there's even some scenes where they move as a group. In the dorm room when they're on the ceiling, they all kind of a little bit more respect Hamm's rules of motion, just because that's what's better for the joke in that scene. More often than not, it was just design. How much can we make them feel like an illustration, even if they're illustrated by different people?
Hey guys, did you know the top 5 most expensive movies ever made are Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens at number 5, Avengers Age of Ultron at number 4, Pirates of the Caribbean at the World's End number 3, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides at number 2, and coming in at number 1 is Avatar. Now click here below to subscribe for more great content, and on the side if you want to watch another video.